Escape from Tarkov's armor and health system is one of the most complicated in gaming. This was only magnified with patch 14.0 and a complete overhaul of how the already complicated armor system worked. This overhaul not only added additional hitboxes, but it moved armor from a simple coverage system to a much more granular and complex system. Before, there were essentially 8 hitboxes on the head. This has been increased to 11, with some just getting renamed or shuffled around. But we'll talk more about that in a little bit. With these changes, I wanted to know if helmets operated the same as they did before, or if they had changed anything on how they operate like plates did with the soft armor and removable plate system on the body system. So we got a motley crew together and tested everything we could think of. I didn't want to listen to him cough. We need a body. Hey, somebody lie behind him.
Jesus Christ, Airwing.
Whoa, your armor's bugged out.
Is my Corin blue on your screen?
It's got somebody's face on it too. We had to get rid of him, guys. He's wearing that possessed armor. Hey, your helmet's doing shit too now. Oh, whoops. I found it. Shit. Get naked. Take it all off. Just don't bend over. Look up. We tested everything from hitboxes and layered armor to gaps and flash resistance to squeeze out every last bit of info we could get you guys up to speed. And for this, I once again ask for your like, a comment, a subscribe, and possibly even turning on that notification bell. These are just a few little free things that keep the channel going so I can continue to murder innocent test victims. The good news, the underlying process is all the same. Blunt damage, durability burn, protection loss, ricochet, it all appears to operate the same as before patch 14.0, which this is good. It's less stuff to relearn. But there still are quite a few important changes that everyone needs to be aware of, as well as some old systems that a lot of folks just don't understand. But first up, let's bust a myth, or at least a concern folks had. Do helmets, face shields, armored eyeglasses, do they all still ricochet? Now, for whatever reason, BSG removed the stats on a lot of this stuff. It used to have a ricochet chance on here, and it's not there anymore. So that made a lot of people wonder if the stuff could still ricochet. And the answer is yes. We saw ricochets on helmets, we saw it on face shields, armored glasses, masks, all of it. Now, some people ask, how do we know a ricochet happened? It's a little bit of deductive assumption, I guess you could say, but it's pretty safe and reasonable. Whenever you shoot ammo that's able to penetrate armor and it only does 1 point of damage to that armor, and it also only does maybe 1 or 2 points of damage to the individual, that means it ricocheted. Because if it didn't ricochet, it means it penetrated or it was stopped by the armor. Now, high pen ammo can't be stopped by armor, and if it's not stopped, it penetrates, which means it does more damage to the armor and the player. So that's just kind of one way you can tell something ricocheted. Now, another thing to keep in mind is that before patch 14.0, once the helmet was zeroed, if it was 0 out of 28 durability on this, for example, it no longer provided ricochet chance. Basically, the helmet didn't exist anymore. Now, this is still the case, but it applies to the specific armor areas. So, for example, if the top area is zeroed out, the nape area will still provide ricochet coverage. Now, I jumped over something that I probably should have done first, but I wanted to get one of the biggest questions I got asked first out of the way. And we did that with the ricochet. But we need to make sure everybody understands the hitboxes on the head and how the armor is applied to them. This is so that you understand how you can get head ears from somebody in front of you and why head nape seems to be so confusing when sometimes you die to that. All right, now we're gonna use paint because, it's super high tech and I can color with a crayon, which is pretty much what I like doing anyways. And I'm gonna use this to show you guys where the hitboxes are based on the face. Now, this isn't some exact data mined graphic. It isn't something that is done with any kind of, we looked at the data in the game. This is just based on a little bit of testing. It gives you a rough idea of where things are at. And this is just to help you understand some of the concepts we're gonna go over here with the armor and how it covers these areas. So the first thing we're gonna do, and we'll do it in red, is we're gonna do the head eyes. So the head eyes is basically something about like this. This box in here is where you're gonna hit head eyes if you hit in there, and that is going to register on the armor if you have armor there. We'll do head, top of head in green just for a little bit of contrast, and that's pretty straightforward and simple, right? You're gonna be all of this that you see here. That's head, top of head, at least on the front view. Now, the new hitbox that they added, that I believe this used to just be jaws is what it was, and we'll do an orange, is the face hitbox. And it basically runs in this area here, stops just below the lips or right at the lips. And then obviously we'll go back to green here. You have the jaws hitbox, which is down here. Now the interesting one, and this is going to be one, I guess we'll do it in yellow, is ears. And the ears are actually visible from the front, and not just because they're sticking out. The actual hitbox itself, because the hitbox is kind of a basket, I won't say basketball shape, kind of an oblong circle sphere. And that's what the hitbox actually is represented in game. You can't see it. All you see is the physical model, but the hitbox itself is a sphere basically. And then on that sphere, you have areas. So what you end up with is these areas on the side where front facing, you can actually see the character, or I mean, you can see the ear hitbox, and it can be shot from the front. And again, I want to exemplify, this is not tied to the character model. They are two separate entities that are kind of lined up with each other. Now for the side, we'll kind of do the same thing, right? We'll do the head eyes hitbox, which is roughly something about like this. You've got the, I'm probably gonna get colors wrong, but you got the face area, which is something like this. The jaw did some weird stuff, and it was really, obviously it's really hard to test, but the jaw does kind of come up like this a little bit. Then the really kind of weird thing is, we're gonna do head top of head, right? It's just the front half of the head, and it actually overlaps down here a little bit with head eyes. There's a little sliver on the side of the face that was still registering head top of head that I assumed would be head eyes, but it wasn't. And then it kind of rolls over the top and then comes to the front here. But the head ears, which I don't remember what I do, yellow, the head ears hitbox overlaps with all of these in weird ways. It's not like this perfectly spherical or square system. And then to just add more confusion to the whole thing, you had head nape, which is the back half of the head. Now, I didn't do a ton of testing on the neck area, but we did test it to see with armor and overlaps and stuff. But basically, if you got into anything down that looked like the neck, it ended up being the neck hitbox. This did wrap around a little bit on one shot, but again, you can't be that precise. But this is essentially what the hitboxes on the head look like. And this specific area is how protection is applied. I'm going to go back to the helmets here, and we'll go back and forth, or I'll try to have the editor put a thing up here. But when you have a helmet on, let me throw it on my character here and see how well it works. When you have a helmet on, this ear coverage comes like way back. That ear coverage actually goes back here into this blue area. It's not ear, it's even though that is the ear armor, it doesn't matter if that's where you hit. The game doesn't check for armor until the character model is impacted by the bullet. So your guy, while he has a helmet that might be sticking out past where it's at, unless you hit the hitbox, which is lined up with the character model, you will not register a hit. So you can shoot through gear. And this again is important with how protection is applied, because it doesn't matter where you actually penetrate the armor, where it goes through on the helmet. Where it matters is where the bullet hits, and that's what registers. Once that registers and the game says, okay, you hit ears, it then goes and looks at the gear you're wearing and says, oh, does he have ear protection on? Yes. All right, well, let's run all the math and do the checks with penetration, ricochet, all that kind of stuff then. The upside of this being things like visual gaps, like you get in shot, like the chops on this airframe, for example, this hole in the middle, bullets can't go through that. Or with a Killa face shield, I got one right here, right? This Maska Killa face shield, bullets won't go through the slot. Or on things like the CQM mask, these holes, bullets don't go through in that. It's covered because this says it's got eyes covered. It acts like glasses, essentially. The downside is, though, obviously, is that even if it looks like the helmet covers something, if it doesn't list it, it doesn't cover it. So for example, I'll put this Exfil face shield on and we'll look at it face on here, right? So if you're looking at it face on, you see that it covers my ears right here, right? Or at least it looks like it does. It does not, and we tested this several different ways. I can shoot right through the visual representation of the face shield and still hit head ears from straight on. This also meant that there were times where I was shooting a helmet up here in the very top region, and even though the decal was showing hitting the helmet, it was that's where I was aiming, that it didn't matter. The hitbox goes up, that eye hitbox actually goes up on the helmet a little bit. So your impacts are hitting the helmet visually, you're getting decals on the helmet, but because that hitbox is what's being actually impacted, the game registers as a head eyes and doesn't even look at the helmet. So that's how sometimes you can see bullet holes in a helmet that you've killed somebody, but there's no damage done to it. This also happened with the ears hitboxes, things especially like these chops that come like way back to the back of the head. Even though that's technically, you might think that's ear armor, or even armor that it would, even though the decal shows up on the chops, for example, the actual damage would be done to the head nape, just because that's how the game checks for armor. You hit the hitbox, the head nape nip box, it doesn't matter that it went through the chops, and that's where the decal shows up. It's only going to check it against the helmet. So I hope that makes sense. It's kind of a messy system, but it's not as complex as the next one we're going to talk about, is the layered armor, or how you can have stuff stacked on top of one another. Now I'm going to do you a real quick example here with this and just show you what I mean. I can have all three of these pieces on right now, and my character kind of looks crazy and weird. But the big thing is that my eyes have 3 layers of protection, because 1, the face shield says eyes, 2, the death shadow says eyes, and also the glasses say eyes. Now you can get some cases with some of these helmets. I don't have the full face shield for this. I don't have it unlocked yet, so sorry. But if you put the full face shield on here, it says it covers eyes and jaws, right? Instead of this one just covers eyes and face. The full face shield covers eyes, face, and jaws, which means that stacked with the chops, which also cover ears and jaws, you have 2 layers of protection on the jaws. And that's just on the helmet, because the death shadow has, jaws as well. So now you have 3 layers on the jaws, on the face, and on the eyes with this system. And there's other examples of this too. Let me go digging in my boxes here looking for stuff. You have the trooper face masks, which these cover a ton of space, right? They have face, head, top, eyes, jaws, and throat. They actually go down into the throat on top of everything else. And then you have slap plates, or bastion up armor plates, whatever you want to call them. This is bastion diamond age bastion helmet armor plate. People call it a slap plate. It's not slap plate. Something it's specific to a different item. Let me make sure you don't have one of those sitting here real quick with all the helmets that I kind of pulled out and moved around. It doesn't look like it. I'm not going to go dig anymore. There's a slap plate that can go on top of like fast MTs and stuff. These all act as layered protection. So like the bastion, for example, it's got a big hole on the top of it. It doesn't matter. It says head nape and top of head. So it covers all of those. Even if you hit the helmet up here on top where it isn't actually covering, doesn't matter. That's not how the game checks for it. Now, the advantage to this is it does provide additional protection, more so with slap plates where you have level 6 armor on top of a level 4, helmet. But even the level 3 and level 2 armors that you have from some of these other face coverings do provide layered protection as well. So this means that bullets hit you in the eyes can potentially be stopped or deflected by a 2nd or 3rd layer of armor. Now, there can be bugs with this, and there have been bugs in the past. We didn't see any in testing, but we didn't test every combination. There's just so many of them. But even when everything's working perfectly fine, there's a really small margin of bullets that have penetration and damage, where a class 2 trooper face shield combined with a death shadow mask and condors, that layer is going to be the difference between life and death. A lot of bullets that are going to get through class 2 face shields are going to continue to go or have enough damage to kill you anyways. Now, that doesn't mean don't wear this. You kind of look cool doing stuff like this, and you sure as heck have lots of coverage and protection on your face when you have these systems on like this. And there is, again, that still small margin that it might save your life. But just don't feel like you're invulnerable in the face because you're wearing this, because you're not. But that is on its head with, again, like I said, the bastion plate or the slap plates. The way the level 6 and 4 armor interact with each other, these will very often save your lives if you take a shot there. I don't know how many times I've had a bastion plate on and taken a shot from SNB or M61 and survive, because the outer plate slows the bullet down enough, it reduces the damage and penetration enough that the helmet itself can catch the round. And yeah, it does 30 damage to my head and I survive, but I survive. So that's just all food for thought, just stuff I wanted to mention to make sure everybody understood it. Now, the last thing we tested was flash resistance. And honestly, this was more fun than it was science, but we did prove out 2 things doing it. One is it does work as advertised. The higher percentage of protection against flashbangs that's shown on the armor or the item, the glasses or the face shield, the shorter the duration of the flash. And the second one is that these effects stack. So if you have glasses on with a face shield, those 2 numbers combine. Like an example of this would be like, let's say you had, what are the welder glasses? They provide 45%. So if you have those on top of with, let's say, I'll say an Alton, but we'll just go with a Rice Tea, which is 30%. You have 75% total reduction. Now, I didn't check to see if it's exact, if 70% plays out in the timing or anything like that, but we did test to see if somebody who had a helmet on with glasses versus somebody who had the same helmet on and no glasses, if one could see sooner than the other, and they could. And these aren't the only thing. A lot of sunglasses, like it's one of the, like other than drip, I guess, it's one of the only reason to wear some of these sunglasses is they have different percentages of reductions. And same thing with face shields. Some are 10, some are more, some are 30. The Tagilla mask, which I don't have any one on me. I guess I can go to the handbook here. I can look it up here. All right, well, I couldn't find Tagilla's face mask on the thing, but on the wiki, you can see here it provides 70% blindness protection. So that is how that all played out with the various flashbangs. But that's it. That's helmets. I will be doing a tier list here as soon as I get this video over to the editors and I can start on that. So look for that really soon. So just make sure you're subbed and you have that notification bell on. That way you see it as soon as it goes live. You also won't miss out on any of the news content that I do, so you're up to speed on that. But thanks again for watching, and especially for sticking away all the way through the end like this in the video. It really does help me out, and I do hope that you got something out of it. We'll wrap it up there. I wish you the best of luck in your raids, and we'll see you in Tarkov.